everybody! Hang on, I've just realised there's some squares on screen, John. Look at that. There's some squares on screen. I think it's a camera setting. Now, can I have 2 seconds just to do a camera setting to make sure that we don't have squares on our faces all day? Everybody at home, round of applause for John. He solved something! How awesome is that? Hey look, if I sit in the right place, I get a poppy on me. Look at that. How cool is that? It's like it's a bigger poppy than I've got. Awesome! Hey, bouncy boy. Right, so I am joined today by my awesome kids, Elijah. Say hello, Elijah.
Hi.
And Tyler.
Hello.
They've joined me today on the sofa because it's nice to have company every now and again, isn't it? And and I've been talking to the sheepies and the lions for way too long. Anyway, we're going to go into our sealer now. What's our sealer? It's sing, explain, listen, action and honour. So, we're going to explain what's going on this morning. So what are we going to learn this morning, H? Do you have any idea at all?
God is wise.
God is wise! Yeah, you can put the owl on because you got God is wise. See, we've got owl this morning to show us that it's wise. Right, what do you think of when someone says the word wise or wisdom? What do you think of, H?
People who know a lot of maths.
People who know a lot of maths. I think of Yoda. What do you think of, Eli? Do you think of Mummy and Daddy?
Trains.
Trains. That's not good. Okay, so I think of maybe a teacher or a professor or a politician, maybe. Maybe some of them are wise. Do you imagine an old person, maybe? Do you imagine an old person, like great-grandfathers and stuff like that?
Or maybe from Chuggington, the old wagon.
Yeah, that old wagon from Chuggington, that's the guy.
Yeah.
Sometimes we can think that wisdom is and knowledge are joined together, so you've got to be old to be wise because you've got to know lots of things. Some people say that wisdom is knowledge used correctly as well. So we can know from this that you can be clever, you can be clever without being wise. So you can have lots of knowledge, but maybe not a lot of wisdom. But you can know lots of things, and that is fine. But you can't be wise without being clever. So you can't be wise without knowledge. Wisdom is best shown when you make the right decisions and also what to do with all that knowledge you have in your bonds. Yeah? So, the Bible often compares wisdom and foolishness. Proverbs is a book in the Bible, yeah? And it's full of verses that compare wisdom and foolishness. The point they're trying to make is that you are either wise or foolish. You can't be in between. You can't be neutral. You can't be like that in between ground. One of these verses about wisdom and foolishness is Proverbs 10:8. And it says, "The wise in heart accepts commands, but a chattering fool comes to ruin." How cool is that? It's an owly type thing, isn't it? Yeah. Right, can I ask you some questions? Yeah?
You can't.
I can't ask you questions, no, okay. If the statement is wise, I want you to hold up a book, yeah? And if what I say is foolish, I want you to make the letter C for crazy. Or, yeah, hold up the owl for wise, and then do the letter C for crazy, yeah? Okay, so is spending time reading God's word wise or foolish? Is that the owl? Yeah? Wise. That's right. Is listening to Mummy and Daddy wise or foolish? Yeah, it's wise. It's very wise. Very, very wise. You guys at home? It's very wise. Is crossing a busy road without checking left or right wise or crazy? Crazy! Is sticking something in a plug in an electrical socket that's not a plug? Is that crazy or wise? Crazy indeed. No playing with electrical sockets at home, you kids. How about eating all of your vegetables? Is that crazy or wise? Is that crazy or wise?
Ow.
Is it wise, yeah? Oh, for you, Eli, it's probably crazy. Feeding your vegetables to the rabbit and lying to your parents about it. Is that crazy or wise? It's crazy, yeah. Oh, cool. So, I believe we might have a visit from somebody. Who's that, Eli?
Hey everyone!
Hi, Grandpa!
Oh, hey.
Speaking of wise, how are you, Grandpa?
Speaking of my eyes,
Speaking of your eyes,
yes.
which show me your wisdom. Whoa!
Oh,
I'm sucking up to you today, Grandpa. How are you?
I'm very well, and always very well. I mean, you know, I do have a bad back and bad knees, and I've got a very bad memory. I've also got a very bad memory, and not to mention my bad memory. But apart from my bad knees, my bad back, my bad memory, and my bad memory, I'm good.
So you've got a bit of a bad memory then, Grandpa?
I've got a what?
A bad memory.
I haven't seen my mummy for years.
Oh, okay. How's your ears now? Are they okay?
My rear?
Oh!
Dear me, boy! You're on the telly!
Grandpa, I think you're mishearing me.
I think I'm not.
I think you are.
Well, for everything that's bad about me, I do have a very good rear. Thank you for asking.
Oh, there we are then.
Mum.
What do you want to ask Grandpa, Eli?
If this phone needs battery, Dad, don't.
No, it's okay. So, Grandpa, we're talking about wisdom today. Can you give us some wisdom? Because you're kind of old.
I'm quite old, but I am known for being very, 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 very... What was the question?
Are you wise, Grandpa?
I'm known for being very, 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 very... Sorry, what was the question?
Grandpa, are you wise?
Oh yes, I'm wise. I'm very, very, very wise.
Awesome. So, what kind of wisdom have you got, Grandpa? I'm really interested in this.
Okay, are you ready?
I'm ready.
So, if you want to be wise,
Yeah.
always listen to your grandpa.
Okay.
They have lots to teach you, it's true, even if they have a bad memory, a bad back, bad knees, and a bad memory. They've always got wisdom to give you.
That's right.
Yeah.
And how have you got all this wisdom, Grandpa?
Well, because you learn things over the years, you see, and you remember them, but more than just knowing stuff, you put it into practice, and then you find out that it actually works and it's true.
Wow.
Yes.
So you can share wisdom with us by telling us what you've learned. Is that right?
Absolutely.
Oh, fantastic.
For example,
Yes.
never eat yellow snow.
What? Why wouldn't you eat yellow snow? Isn't it like lemon flavoured?
It's not lemon that has made it that colour.
Okay. Yeah. So, HE, make a note of that one. Don't eat yellow snow. Any other pearls of wisdom there, Grandpa?
Of course! If you want to live a long and happy and peaceful life, there are 3 words you need to say to your wife always.
Oh, okay.
You're right, dear.
Ah, and is that what you learned with Mrs. Grandpa?
Oh, Mrs. Grandpa. I do miss her.
Oh, we miss her too.
Yes.
Oh. So you are very wise, Grandpa, and you are wise because you're old, because you've learnt lots and you have lots of knowledge.
Yes.
And obviously you can tell us about that wisdom, and you've imparted wisdom this morning with that very great prophetic announcement of not eating yellow snow.
I don't think it was pathetic.
It wasn't pathetic. It
No.
was really good. I liked it.
Thank you. You see, the older you get, the more you live through, and the more you learn. Because in life, I'm a survivor. I'm going to make it.
I think Grandpa's been listening to your playlist again, HE.
Oh.
Your music playlist.
Your hay wish.
Yes, your hay wish.
Do you wish for hay?
Only at Christmas. We're going to need some hay for Christmas, I think.
I'll give you some.
Okay. Hey!
Hey! Hey, ya! Hey, survivor! got it wrong.
He's definitely been listening
Yeah.
to your playlist on Apple, HE.
Oh, I got an
Probably
apple.
stolen my phone.
You've got an apple, have you?
Yes, I like an apple.
Oh, that's another bit of wisdom there. How can you tell us an old adage about an apple?
Yes, an apple a day.
Yes.
An apple a day is not enough. You need more.
What happens if you eat an apple a day, Grandpa?
Well, you need more. You get very thin.
Okay, yeah, well, yeah, you'd need more than just an apple, wouldn't you?
An apple a day, a banana a week, a pineapple a month.
I put one pineapple a month. I think we
This
should
is all
survive.
available in Grandpa's cookbook. Available in all good bookshops.
Yes.
Price $5.99. Out in time for Christmas.
I tell you what, Grandpa, I was looking in the Bible this week because obviously we were trying to figure out how we were going to explain the fact that God is wise. Obviously, we've read in Job this morning that it says that God is wise,
Yeah.
but how does that apply to us? How do we work through that? And I found this guy, this dude, Solomon. Do you know anything about Solomon?
Oh, Solomon, lovely chap. Yes, I knew him well. He was king.
You knew Solomon.
Yes, me and him were big buddies. Me and Solomon.
Papa,
Oh, what do you want, Eli?
I want him to tell. I want to tell him if his phone is.
Oh, I think Grandpa's lost his phone, buddy. Right, come here. Right, so Grandpa, I'm going to tell the story of when Solomon asks to be wise.
Listen to that. Is that okay?
Yeah, you can go and recline in your chair, I
Thank
think.
you. Nice to see you, everyone.
Nice to see you, Grandpa.
Grandpa.
Say bye-bye.
Bye,
Bye, Grandpa. Bye. Bye. Bye, Grandpa.
Bye.
Right, come and sit here, Eli, and we'll tell a story now. Right, so we've discovered that you guys are really really wise, yeah? And do you always do the right thing?
No.
No. I love you, Angie. You're so honest. So, the Bible tells us that God alone is always wise. He is the only one who always does the right thing at the right time. Not only does God always do what is wise, everything God does is wise, including the things that sometimes don't make sense to us. We can't question why God does certain things, like people catching COVID and pandemics and things like that. But we can know that everything that happens is wise and right. And we know that because God is righteous and because of everything he does is right. Yeah? These are the attributes that we've already discovered about God. We don't have the same wisdom that God has, but as we will see in the story today, in some of the verses that we'll read, we can ask for wisdom and he'll give it to us. And we can know that following God is always a wise thing for us to do. Cool. So let's meet this guy called Solomon. Okay? What do we know about him? Do we know anything about him?
He's a guy called Solomon.
He is a guy called Solomon. There we are. That's all we need to know about him at the moment. Yep. Okay, so he was the third king of Israel.
Okay.
Okay. He was King David's son, and I mean that David, you know, David with the lyre, David who was king, the David with Goliath, with the sling and stuff like that, yeah? That David. He was David's son. He wrote most of the book of Proverbs, which is the one that which is the one that we quoted from this morning, which has got loads and loads of wisdom in it. And he wrote the Song of Solomon as well. And probably people think Ecclesiastes too. And he built the temple in Jerusalem. You know, we always go on about the temple in Jerusalem. Yeah. He built that temple. Yeah, the one that's curtain tore in and stuff like that. So there is a story in the Bible in 1 Kings 3, 1 to 15. Do you want to find it? Go on. I'll let you try and find it whilst I'm doing this bit, where we catch up with Solomon, and he has just become king, and he's married Pharaoh's daughter. At this time, the temple hadn't been built yet. And Solomon would go on to do that a little bit later. So, in order to worship God, they went to high places to give sacrifice and worship. Yeah? So one day, Solomon makes his way there and sacrifices an absolutely obscene amount to God. He sacrifices like 1,000 things to God. So one day, Solomon loved the Lord and did this in worship. and it was a great personal cost to himself. Anyway, after this sacrifice, Solomon went to sleep, and God appeared to Solomon in a dream. I know you have dreams, Eli, don't you? You have dreams, and your dreams have trains in, don't they? Well, this dream with Solomon had God in. Yeah? So Solomon is sleeping, and God asks...
But the one, if I turn my wagga light on,
Yeah?
there's a bad dream in it.
I know, and that's when you hug Daddy, isn't it? So Solomon is having a dream at the moment, and guess what? God is in that dream, and God asks him a question. He says, ask for whatever you want me to give you. Wow, that's really cool, isn't it? What if Daddy asks you that? What do you want me to give you? What do you want?
Phones on your tray.
Rollerblades and trains on my phone.
Wait, no, sewing machine.
Sewing machine and trains on my phone. Okay, these two, yeah, okay, that's good. What a question, though. So Solomon's got to be wondering now, what should I request, yeah? Because he's the king of a nation, and he's got loads of money, he's got loads of stuff. God's just asked him, what do you want? Now, first time I read the next bit, I thought it sounded like Solomon was just stalling for time to think of what he wanted. But now, he is taking this opportunity to thank God for all the kindness shown to his father. How cool is that? So not only did God appear to Solomon and God asked him, what do you want? Solomon then went on to thank God anyway. Before he'd said what he wants, he thanked God and worshipped him in that way. He then says that he's not fully sure how to carry out his duties as king because he's only a child, and he would be around 15 years old. Could you imagine being 15 and being king over an entire nation and having to make decisions every day? That'd be really difficult, wouldn't it? I mean, some days I can't even decide what pyjamas I want to wear or what I want on my toast.
I don't have any more pajamas in my drawer.
I will sort that out later. So, I can't even decide some days what I want on my toast.
Chocolate.
You want chocolate. So, his father David's throne is a big throne to fill, yeah, because David had set really high standard as king. So the throne was really big throne to fill. So he's around 15 years old and he's young. So there's this awesome bit here where Solomon realizes and then explains that as he is young, he doesn't have a discerning heart to know right from wrong when it comes to governing God's people. A difficult task, as there were so many people in this tribe now. So in the tribe of Israel, there was loads of people. And so it would have been a really, really difficult task for Solomon. Solomon being honest and not asking for the riches of the world or power to rule and crush his enemies. He asked for wisdom in his duties. Yeah? Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah? He asked for wisdom in his duty as king over God's people. God is awesome. And he gives Solomon a wise and discerning heart. Yeah? He would be known as the wisest person who ever lived. Isn't that amazing? I thought that was Grandpa, to be honest. With his advice about yellow snow. Anyway, he was the wisest person who ever lived. In fact, this humble request of just having wisdom and discernment pleased God so much that he ended up giving Solomon the wealth and power bit as well. So not only did Solomon end up being wise, he was actually wise, strong and powerful and rich. All God asked is that Solomon be obedient to the laws and commandments that God had given his father David. Solomon then returned to Jerusalem and there thanked God again with lots of burnt offerings again. So lots and lots of sacrifice at the ark, as the temple hadn't been made yet. So they were still worshipping at the ark. Do you remember when we did the Ark of the Covenant? Yeah?
Oh, okay.
Cool. So, we say that Solomon is wise, but how did it actually play out in real life? So we can say somebody's wise, but sometimes we need to see their actual decisions that they end up making to see how wise they are, yeah? So the lucky thing is, there's a bit in the next bit of the Bible that actually explains that. Part of Solomon's duties as king was to listen to the problems and arguments going on in the kingdom. They would basically come along and asked the king to come along and ask the king to decide who was in the right and who was in the wrong. What a responsibility. No wonder Solomon was worried and asked God for wisdom. So the story goes on in 1 Kings 3, 16 to 28. 1 Kings 3, 16 to 28.
1 Kings.
1 Kings
Yeah.
3. So back a few pages. That's 4. And 3, 16 to 28. So
16
16 to 28. So that section there. So 2 women lived together and both of them had babies. They both had babies, yeah? One night, sadly, one woman's baby died. So she got up and took the other woman's baby and put the dead baby next to the other woman. That's really mean, isn't it? That's really, really mean. The next morning, the woman who woke up with the dead baby knew it wasn't her son. So they brought the matter to the court of Solomon. So they brought it to Solomon's court. The women had a full-on argument in front of Solomon about which baby belonged to which woman. Who was to say who was in the right? Where was the evidence? This was going to be tough for Solomon to decide, wasn't it? Yeah? This was going to be super tough for Solomon to decide. Okay, this next bit sounds a bit weird, yeah, but stick with me. Keep listening. It's going to be okay. Solomon asked for a sword. A sword. And gave an order that the living baby should be cut in half and half the baby given to each woman. Ooh, that sounds a bit weird, doesn't it? That sounds very weird.
But then the other baby would die.
Well, the baby's going to die, isn't it? Because it's going to be cut in half. The mother whose baby was dead said, "Okay, go on then, cut the baby in half." Oh. The mother who knew it was her baby begged Solomon not to kill her baby and told Solomon to give the baby to the other woman. When Solomon heard this response, he knew who the baby belonged to and gave the baby to the rightful mother. Because the mum cared for the baby so much that she just wanted the baby to be alive. Whereas the other woman was very spiteful and didn't want either woman to have the baby. Amazing, isn't it? So that was a fantastic use of wisdom there from Solomon. When the people of Israel heard what had happened, they were amazed at Solomon's wisdom and knew his wisdom was from God. How great was this demonstration of this wisdom? How awesome is that? Thank you, H.E. So even though Solomon's wisdom was from God, it was still nothing compared to the actual wisdom of God. But we also reminded that as a man, Solomon still failed and eventually ended up worshipping himself and fell away from God. It's a story that happens all too often. However, we also have in the Bible the greatest example of God's wisdom, and it comes in a package that doesn't really make sense to people. Can anyone think of who I'm talking about? Can you think of who I'm talking about? Can you think of who? Oh, okay. Can you think of who I'm talking about? Okay. So then,
I know. Is it the Samaritan and the other person?
No. Who's that guy? Do you recognise him? You might recognise him.
No.
So there's this great bit in the Bible in 1 Corinthians 1, 18 to 25. And you don't have to turn to it, it's fine. Christ is God's power and wisdom. The teaching about the cross seems foolish to those who are lost, but to us who are being saved, it is the power of God. Amazing. And that verse goes on and on and on as well about the wisdom. But I love this verse. Basically, God had to do something so wise that it looked like foolishness to people on earth. Yet if you believe that God sent his son to die for our sins, then you get a glimpse at God's wisdom and understand something so much greater than what initially looks like a foolish decision to our definition of wisdom anyway. When we think about Jesus on the cross, we have an amazing picture of God's wisdom. And when we see that his wisdom and his power and his love and his goodness are far greater than anything we could ever think or do or even imagine. So, we've got some questions for you to go over at home. If you want to have a questions at home session over dinner or lunch or whatever you're doing today, what do you think wisdom is? What do the following verses say about wisdom? So have a look at the verses in the Bible and see what they say about wisdom and what you can discover. And what would you have done if you were in Solomon's position with the two mums and the baby? What would you have done? That'd be quite interesting to have a chat about with your mums and dads and your brothers and sisters. Awesome. So the action for today. Today, sadly, I haven't done a craft. But what I thought would be a really good idea is that on the handout that is on the website, there are some links to some poppy activities, poppy activities that you can create a poppy and maybe find out a little bit more about why we remember people on this day and why we use a poppy as well. Find out a little bit more about that, and obviously you can have a look as well. John had a wonderful interview with a chaplain from the army this morning, and your mums and dads might be able to run that back and show you, or they can explain it to you and you can see what's going on. So it'd be awesome for you to do some of that. There's one that's a paracord poppy which looks really cool, and there's also a paper wreath handprint thingy-majiggy. Come here, buddy, come here. So we're going to finish up today. Do you know how we finish up? How do we normally finish up?
Prayer.
We honour God, don't we? And we do that by praying, yes? And what else do? We read the Bible and we do the memory verses, don't we? Yeah? Yeah? You're grumpy, boy, you. Okay, so we're gonna finish up by praying. So how do we pray? Hands together, eyes closed, head bowed. No fidgeting! No fidgeting! Cool. So, dear God, we thank you for the example today of Solomon and how he humbly asked you for wisdom. Remind us each day to meet with you and help us to understand your wise choices for our lives. We thank you that even as a child, you gave Solomon wisdom. And thank you for all you are doing for us and with us each day. Amen. Cool. Our memory verse for today is our verse for the day. So, to God belong wisdom and power, counsel and understanding are his. To God belong wisdom and power, counsel and understanding are his. Job 12:13. Do you want to say it, Hedge?
To God belong wisdom, power,
Counsel
and understanding are his. Job 12 verses 13.
Awesome. High five. Cool. Right. I'm going to say see you next week. Also, I want to say that we are coming to the end of our incredibly long, massive God Is series. Can you believe it? We've been going the entire year. We started this outside of lockdown with all of your with your LiveWise leaders over in the centre, and obviously when lockdown hit, we ended up bringing it on Bethel Kids. So news and updates. We've been doing this for like the whole year. So I thought it'd be really great that in about 2 weeks' time, we're going to have a review session to see which attributes you remember, but also which ones were your favourites, which craft was your favourites, which attribute, which lesson did you enjoy, which story was your favourite, which one stayed with you the most, which ones stays in your brain and reminds you of things. How has what you have learnt over the last year helped you to understand God better? So we're going to have a look at those questions. I want you to start thinking about them and maybe sending me in some videos of explaining which ones you enjoyed, or even just letting me know which one you enjoyed.
I think Grandpa's lost a list though, because he's lost his memory of where he's lost a list.
That's right. If he loses something and he forgets where he is and he forgets where it is, then he'd lose it completely, wouldn't he?
So I think we've lost a list.
I think we'll have to have a look. Hey!
I'll have a word with you, young lady.
Grandpa, go back to sleep, buddy. Cool. Right. So we're gonna leave you now. Yeah, we're gonna leave you now. Go and have some lunch, and we'll see you guys.